Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Dr. Joe Salustio back with you on another episode here of EdUp. And I have to tell you, and I say this really on every episode, but how lucky we are here at EdUp to be interacting with so many amazing college presidents, helping to redefine what the future of higher education is going to look like. And I'm very, very excited to have a conversation with our president, the president we have with us today, because they've just at this university done really a release of some new ways of thinking about the liberal arts. See, I can't talk today. Liberal arts, and excited to have that conversation. But before I get to that, and of course, I'm on the road. There's just sound like why I'm in an echo chamber, and I have no sound effects today. But I want to introduce my co-host, ladies and gentlemen. He's the one and only. You heard his voice now many, many, many times. He's Brent Ramsden. He's CEO at Education Dynamics. See, those are the sound effects for the day.
Thank you, Joe. You did well. Extremely excited about the conversation we're about to have. I think this institution has a great legacy, and with the reinvention that was announced recently, an amazing future ahead of it. So with that, I will let you go ahead and introduce the president.
Well, I think he's one of one. I can already tell that. He's one of a kind, I would say. And he's in it looks like as big of the echo chamber I'm in. His office looks like it's long, or the camera's got a really cool angle. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get him on the microphone. He is Dr. Arthur Levine. He is president at Brandeis University. Arthur, welcome to an EdUp microphone. How are you?
I'm really good. Thanks for having me.
One of one, one of a kind. I've heard that about you. You're one of a kind, and you're doing some things that are one of a kind out there, aren't you?
If you're afraid of success, this message isn't for you. Every year, higher ed talks about change. But Insights EDU 2026, it's the catalyst. The Modern Learner Report drops here first, revealing how learners are thinking, searching, and deciding right now. Spoiler, most institutions aren't keeping up. 3 days on the beach in Fort Lauderdale, February 17th to the 19th, 2026. Over 65 powerhouse speakers, real strategy, real data, only built for leaders ready to own their transformation. Reserve your spot now at insightsedu.com. Early bird pricing ends December 15th. EdUp Experience has brought you powerful conversations with more than 400 college presidents and higher ed leaders, over 1,000 episodes and counting. Now, we're inviting you to join us in shaping the future of higher ed podcasting. For just $5.99 a month, you lock in that rate for life, but only if you sign up before December 31st, 2025. As a supporter, you'll get ad-free early access to episodes. Prices go up after December 31st, but your rate never will. Visit edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com. Click support the show and join our community today.
Everybody's one of a kind.
Well, I guess that's true. I didn't bring you here to correct me on my own podcast, Arthur. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm sorry. It won't happen. I promise.
No, I mean, everybody is one of a kind, but it is true that that you are doing some really unique things at Brandeis. And I want you to level set for us, for someone that maybe hasn't heard of Brandeis University. Tell us where you are physically, who you serve, and how you serve them.
Brandeis University is located in Waltham, Massachusetts, about 12 miles outside of Boston. And it was created in 1948. It's a non-sectarian Jewish university. And the rationale for it was that after World War II, there were large numbers of populations that were still being discriminated against by mainstream higher education. They included Jews, they included people of color, they included women. And Brandeis wanted to create, or the founders wanted to create, an elite university for those people because they were a talented group. And Brandeis consists of a graduate school. Brandeis is an AAU university, meaning that it's a world-class research university, and also has a highly selective undergraduate school. And I think what's special about it is the two work symbiotically. The graduate school doesn't dictate terms for the undergraduate school.
How many of those books have you read on that shelf over there? Just a random curiosity.
It depends upon the shelf. There's one shelf where I wrote all of them. And one,
Well done. You know, I'm going to leave some of the because Brent's going to ask some questions about some of the reformation of thinking that you've done with the liberal arts. So I'll leave that to him. But I am curious to know because you've just been installed as the permanent president recently. How's it going? Is maybe the better question is what's exactly like you thought it would be, and maybe one thing now that you're in the role of president where you go, huh, didn't expect that one.
okay. This is my third presidency, so that is also my 21st year as a college president.
Hmm.
So that what surprised me, and you're not going to believe me when I tell you this, is that this job has been so much more fun and so much easier than I imagined it would be.
I think you're the only one that ever said that.
I probably am. I mean, bearing in mind that I came before Washington changed, and that is not easy, and that is not fun. But taking a university and moving it into the future, that's fun.
Brent?
That is great. You know what? It's a great segue. I think recently I saw in Inside Higher Ed in the Chronicle really what you unveiled at Brandeis, which is a plan to reinvent liberal arts and its curricula, student support, but more importantly, career centricity at the core of it. And I'm wondering, Arthur, like, what are as you think about that bigger plan, what are the one or two biggest shifts that you think will continue to distinguish Brandeis and impact students in the most meaningful way in that overall plan?
Let me go back a bit and talk about what's happening to higher education and put Brandeis into perspective.
Mm-hmm.
The United States is moving from a national analog industrial economy to a global digital knowledge economy. We're seeing demographic change, we're seeing economic change, we're seeing technological change, we're seeing global change, and we're also seeing political change. Every university in America is going to face those challenges. So what's going to happen is about 20 to 25% are going to close. Regional universities and community colleges are going to increasingly become online degree programs. In terms of research universities and residential colleges, it's where the real changes in traditional higher education will and need to come. And what will occur with those is that we're at a point, need to step back one more piece. We've gone through this only once before in history. It was the Industrial Revolution. And during that era, higher education was transformed for a new society. And we had little church-related colleges that were created in the Middle Ages or for the Middle Ages. And in the period of the Industrial Revolution, what happened is they became great universities, they became research institutions, they became technical institutes, they became all of the things that we associate with modern higher education, including community colleges, and the old model disappeared. With all the changes that are going on today, we're going to see the same thing occur. And now I can answer your question. So what I asked the faculty at Brandeis to do with me, the liberal arts were created for industrial America as they exist today. I said, let's reinvent them for the global digital knowledge economy. And in doing that, let's give our students the skills and knowledge they need to thrive rather than what their parents needed. What I think of is there's this amazing passage by Henry Adams in the book he wrote about his life. Henry Adams was the great-grandson, the grandson of two presidents. He was a journalist, he was a historian. He went to Harvard mid-19th century. And he lamented the fact that he received an education appropriate for the 18th century and had to live in a world plunging into the 20th century. He received an education that was 200 years beyond the times. That happened very, very quickly. The society changed, demands changed, and that's what's happening today. So when I asked the faculty to reinvent the liberal arts, what we concluded was, first, that we take our core curriculum, general education, what everybody has, let's revise it and give students the skills they need for today, and let's make it competency-based. Second, let's create a center on applied liberal arts and careers. And what will exist in that center? First, as soon as a student arrives at Brandeis, that student receives 2 advisors. One's an academic advisor, the second's a career advisor. And as they get more and more specialized, we have this incredibly distinguished alumni body. We're going to hook them up with top people in their fields. You want to go into entertainment? You can have an advisor who invented Friends. You want to go into science? You can have an advisor who won the Nobel Prize. So what we also want is for every student to have experiences to combine with the liberal arts. And whether that's simulations or internships or study abroad, the idea is take the liberal arts and apply them to the real world. And the reason is this. The liberal arts are always more successful when they have 1 foot in the library and 1 foot in the street. When the world changes quickly, we lose traction with the street and we need to restore it. And that's why the career focus. So I wanted a second transcript. And the second transcript is recording competencies related to the specific career students want to choose. If I want to be a journalist, what skills do I need? If I want to be a scientist, what skills and knowledge do I need? If I want to be a teacher, what skills and knowledge do I need? So we're creating a set of competencies. We're creating assessment tools to measure whether students have actually achieved those competencies. And we're giving micro-credentials for students who do achieve those. And we're recording it all on a transcript, a second transcript, which students can send to employers detailing what they know and what they can do. It's not like the traditional transcript, which lists a group of courses and grades. This one's actually about what students know and can do. We're also setting up a lab in that center, which will focus on AI, it'll focus on VR, and the goal is to teach students about it, but also apply it to career education. And we're doing one more thing, and then I'm going to stop. The thing we're doing is I asked the faculty to reorganize. Let's take what we are is we were organized the same as most traditional colleges, arts and sciences, graduate schools, professional schools. And I asked reorganize. And in your reorganization, let's make sure that every unit now has both the core disciplines and their applications. So let's take economics and pair it with business. So I'm a unit on economics and business. Let's take social sciences and pair it with social policy. Let's take science and pair it with technology and engineering. Let's take arts and humanities and pair it with culture. Well, I would add one more thing. I'm creating all these career endeavors. The Educational Testing Service came to the conclusion they thought this is where higher education was moving. So they are working with us pro bono to create the assessments, the transcripts, and the competencies. So we're excited about that. That's what we're doing. And what else can I tell you?
Arthur, I feel like you are forklifting the foundations of higher education over the last few decades. And we get a lot of leaders in higher education that listen to this podcast, and we'll probably have a lot of folks that will be attracted to listen to this exact podcast that we're on because they want to hear from you and reinvention. I'm going to peel back what you shared a little bit more because I think there's the what and then there's the how. And I think the what is extremely on point in terms of meeting the moment with a society that is rethinking higher education. You're essentially saying, hey, we will be prepared for the future. We will prepare our students for that. On the how, many times we think of higher education as the tanker in the ocean versus the speedboat. And here you are, and you look way too relaxed to be talking about all this transformation, reinvention, and change at an institution at Brandeis. I'd like you to maybe share the secret in terms of how can others and others in higher education approach this challenge and be bold in the same way that you're doing it. One of the things I took away from what you just shared there is you actually share the objective and the challenge with faculty. And I'm just wondering, to make this much change and have it affect the outcome in the way that you were describing it, what would you guide others who are leaders, maybe other presidents, to do that's sort of sitting in your seat today?
You know, what I did is just textbook. What I've been telling presidents for a very long time, and I've done a lot of consulting, is scare the heck out of your faculty. Tell them the truth about what we're really facing, and then invite them to create the future with you.
Mhm.
And that's all I did. I arrived in November. I described the world that higher education's living in, and I announced we were going into a capital campaign. But you know what I told them? Even if we're incredibly successful, we raise a gazillion dollars. That's not enough.
Mhm.
Every institution is going to be forced to change by the change in our society. So that we talked about demographics, we talked about economics, we talked about technology, we talked about all the rest. And I said, join me.
Mm.
We don't have a choice of staying where we are. And because we don't have the money that some institutions have, and we don't have their time, we have no choice but to lead.
Mhm.
And I said, so let's do that. In the course of doing this, I met with 160 faculty members in my first 2 months here individually.
Mhm.
And that's about a third of the faculty. And I had lots of meetings with different groups. Then I reported back to the faculty on what they told me. And then I gave them the outlines of the program I described to you. And I said, here's one direction we might move. I'm just giving you the outlines. We need to fill in the boxes. We must have held about 60 meetings after that January faculty meeting.
Mhm.
And then we held a secret ballot in March. 88% of the faculty voted in favor. Now, I got to tell you, I can't get 88% of the faculty to vote that today's Friday. They saw the need. They had shaped this thing. They had built this thing, and they believed that we could guide the future, not only for Brandeis, but maybe for other residential and liberal arts colleges as well.
I do believe you are building a model that, when it succeeds, it will be replicated in other places. I think this is truly unique. Beyond curriculum, do you also see student services, advising, external partnerships? These elements also transforming alongside the structures that you've described.
Perfect, Brent. Those things have to happen. And we talked about advising, but advising at most colleges is simply, gee, we have a career services office.
Mhm.
We don't want that. We want an advisor for every student. But more than that, the real transformation is we're bringing in our distinguished alums to
Mhm.
give them advising in a way they've never had it before. That's different. What's also different is you talked about working with business and industry outside. We do some of that. We have continuing ed, and we have engineering. But what this requires is us to do it at scale. We need help from industry in identifying the competencies they want in the people they hire. So we need advisory services. We need internships. We need experiences. We need business people, or they're not all business people. Some are scientists. We need scientists. We need people in the not-for-profit sector, but people who are doing it to come and speak to students here. So yeah, it's a very big change that has a lot of pieces.
And I feel like it all goes back to building that trust with the public, bringing transparency right back to the outcome. And what you're describing is this sort of era of pragmatism, that where people see higher education meeting the moment and actually solving the problem that is in front of us in terms of a changing society with the likes of AI and other trends that are impacting the world for students.
I agree. When higher education's been, let me give two examples. In the Middle Ages, at the medieval university, students studied the ancient Greek trivium and quadrivium. Why would anybody in their right minds do that? The answer is if you studied that, you could get a great job, most often in the church.
Mhm.
So let's go to New England. So the people in the Boston area decide, okay, we're in this new community. The locals don't like us that much. They think we've taken over their territory. We don't know anything about agriculture and planting here. This climate's unlike anything we've ever experienced. So you know what? Let's build a college.
Yeah.
That probably wouldn't have been the first thing I'd have thought of, but that's where they went and they created Harvard. So what's Harvard offering these students who come? Latin, Greek, Hebrew, Syriac, and Bible, in addition to arithmetic. Now you got to ask yourself, wouldn't it have been better to learn something about agriculture? Wouldn't it have been better to learn something, a language you might talk to the natives? Nah. What? I bet not one native tribe spoke Greek. So that what happened was, why'd they take this? It seems irrelevant because they wanted to be leaders in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, and it was a religious community. These are the subjects they needed. When Harvard started, it was the equivalent to the Kennedy School in terms of preparing people for jobs. The liberal arts have always been that way, always. But in those times in which we've lost track of the real world, like the present, in which things change remarkably fast, the liberal arts also need to change. They need to be re-geared for a new era. And that's all we did.
That's
Arthur, as you went through the plan and you outlined all the components, you tackle some really important pieces like a competency-based education and its relevance in an academic model. Awesome. Redesigning the curriculum for the workforce. Those are really important components that not everybody can get right, or they can't get the negative inertia that is built up over time in an institution. Did you address the calendar? Did you have that conversation, the agrarian calendar, perhaps other ways to deal with that component?
Block out your calendar, bring your team, and lock in your spot because Insights EDU early bird pricing ends December 15th. We'll see you in Fort Lauderdale, February 17th to the 19th, 2026. For 3 days, they will disrupt what you think you know about marketing and enrollment for today's modern learner. Support the EdUp experience for just $5.99 a month and lock in that rate for life. You'll get ad-free early access to episodes. But hurry, price goes up after December 31st, 2025. Visit edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com and click support the show.
Nah, I can see why one would do that. The closest we came is when we're talking about competency-based education. Competency-based education differs from the traditional approach in that what you focus on are the outcomes. It's agnostic as to how students learn them. Whereas the traditional approach, fixed time and a fixed process, and it looks like one of the great innovations of the industrial era, the assembly line. I say that not critically. That was the best we had. And so we created schools and universities and colleges to look like assembly lines, taking people through 4 years and all the rest. What we did was we moved to that second model. Actually, we're doing both. We're straddling two worlds. We're continuing to offer courses. We're continuing to offer degrees. We're also switching so that we move to outcomes at the same time. That's why two transcripts. One details the process and the courses and the rest, and the other one ignores the process and just certifies the outcomes, skills and knowledge that students actually have, that some employer might actually care about.
When you were retired, and you tried to stay retired and you failed miserably at it. Did you?
My wife?
Yeah. No, but I imagine she's probably saying the same thing now that you mentioned that. But you you wrote an amazing book, The Great Upheaval. I guess 4 years ago, maybe. Really a seminal piece in higher education. Really one of the most disruptive. One of the books that sort of chronicled disruption and the need for new thinking in higher education. And then you're sort of in retirement at some point, and you say, I'm going to go be at Brandeis. What were the circumstances that pulled you out of retirement? Was it because it was your alma mater? Was it because you felt like you had more to do? What were those circumstances that made you feel like this was the right time for you to come back a third time?
It was my alma mater. And the board had come to me the summer before, and said, we want you to do this. And I'll be honest, I said no several times.
Well, you were retired. That's fair.
I love being retired. I just finished a book. I was writing, I was consulting, I was on boards. It was a great life. However, this is my alma mater. And I really do believe that every institution has got to change for this new world. And they were asking me to do that. I'd written the formula in the earlier book. I just finished a sequel to that book, talking about how colleges were actually doing it. And it wasn't a very pretty picture. So I thought, okay, we've got a chance to do it at Brandeis. Let's take the lead. Let's move the university into the spotlight and make the changes that need to occur visible to the rest of the industry.
It's a good story.
That's the advantage of being true.
Arthur, I'm wondering, as you socialize this on campus with students, what's been the reaction? Or maybe, can you talk a little bit about the student involvement in the actualization process as well?
My whole first year, I've been an internal president, which is to say my job was to work with students, my job was to work with staff, and my job was to work with faculty for the most part. And boy, did we hold meetings. We held meeting after meeting after meeting. We held town halls. We had students advising us. Students really like this approach because what all the research shows right now is that what today's students really care about and their parents care about are careers and jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And what I really liked about it was that we could show the liberal arts were a way to get jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And that was important to me. So students are enthusiastic about this. When I spoke at Admitted Students Day last spring, a whole bunch of families came up and said, will this be available for my child? at the fall? And I said, no, but if your child stays for a second year, child can have this for 3 years. It was that. The program will be in place next year. And in terms of staff, this was a hard thing for staff to do because they were intimately involved. We're talking about reorganizing the whole campus.
Mhm.
And what that means is you don't quite know how everybody's going to fit in.
Yeah.
And people have to build something without knowing quite how they're going to fit in. And people were wonderful. Meeting with people, talking with people, putting them on committees was really critical to this and having them understand why we had to do this.
Mhm. Arthur, if you were in front of a prospective family looking at Brandeis, how would you define the institution given the transformations that's underway right now? How would you, for lack of a better word, present the institution Brandeis University is to that family?
We are a small, research one, highly world class research institution with an elite liberal arts college. We're small and it's a really welcoming community. But what stands out about us is we're leading higher education into the future. The programs that have existed are aging. They need to change. The liberal arts are particularly in trouble. We have reinvented them. We're going to prepare your son or daughter for the world ahead, not just for the next job, but for a career. And we want your child to come back. That second transcript, that's not for 4 years at Brandeis. That's for the rest of your life. You're going to have micro credentials. You're going to have upskilling, reskilling, new skilling. We want you to put that on the transcript too.
Mm.
So it's a record of all your achievements. We're going to give that to your child, and nobody else can.
I
Sign me
absolutely.
up. Sign me up.
Yeah, Joe, I feel like Arthur is describing the modern learner, that learner that will continue to upskill and reskill forever because we're just living at that point in time in which careers really require that so that you can have earning potential into the future. And in many ways, it is that, Arthur, I think it's the comfort challenging the status quo. So many things have been solidified, whether it's the credential as we know it, and the ability to say, here's exactly what's needed for the moment, and it could be these micro credentials, maybe shorter programs, and other aspects that will help students into the future. So I absolutely love that. I also think that many institutions are saying they are doing transformative things, but they're not necessarily changing almost every aspect. You're changing the very product that you offer at Brandeis, and I think I'm just amazed by how it's being articulated and being executed right now.
You are very, very kind. Thank you very much.
What do we, Arthur, by the way, I do think differentiation is a really big piece of what a higher ed institution needs to have or own or whatever. And as you were talking about it, you are using words that help differentiate Brandeis from another institution. We're going to do this; no one else is doing it. And I think families and students are looking for different. They're looking for something that feels similar, like I know what higher ed has to offer, but I want to do it in a different way. I want to have it. See, the thing about competency based, and you know this, is that it feels more like subscription. It feels more like the things I touch and feel on my phone. It feels like I can demonstrate how good I am at something with these outcomes, and then I don't have to be stuck in this chair. So that I'm learning as I go, and it's up to me to partially dictate the speed and veracity at which I learn, as long as I can prove that I know it. And so it gives me some control over my learning, which I think control is a really important characteristic to identify in a student who is really in control with a cell phone and expecting some level of control in everything they do. So differentiation. And then what I think one of the most important words in higher ed, especially as we go into 2026, because 2025 was sort of the year that we all started to contend with this idea of AI, and it's now relevance. How is what I'm doing relevant to this industry, to the public, to an ROI, to jobs? What's your thought around those two words, differentiation and relevance?
Differentiation is critical. In America, there are a lot of colleges. There are a lot of residential colleges. Even if we look at the most selective colleges in the country, there are probably 60. And why choose one over the other if they all look exactly the same? So, yeah, being distinctive is terribly, terribly important in order for a college to stand out and for people to say, yeah, I'm choosing that one. I have a reason. And it's better than I really like my tour guide. And in terms of relevance, relevance is what college should always have been. What I love is I read the criticisms of higher education during the Industrial Revolution. And these will probably sound strange. They said it's too expensive. Higher education is becoming irrelevant to the world in which we live. It doesn't teach for the real world. And the president of Brown in 1842 said, we can't even give this stuff away. It's because they become irrelevant. They weren't even willing to do the sciences until the 1840s in any real sense. And even then, they did it as something outside the normal track of the university. The point is this: if a university is not relevant, there's no point in going there. Nobody's ever come to higher education to learn to count the angels on the head of a pin.
You know, it's funny. I was doing a AI boot camp training today at a university where I am right now, and there was a particular person, faculty, that stood up and talked about the fear and scariness. AI is scary. You know, I'm worried about AI. I'm worried about it replacing jobs and all the things that we hear. And I said, well, you know what's scarier than AI for higher ed? Enrollment decline. So that's a much scarier concept. I said, because then you're really talking about all of the things that you're scared with AI that probably won't happen are definitely going to happen with enrollment decline. And if we can't change the model, it's exactly what most universities are going to continue to experience as the public continues to question our relevance and ability to distinguish ourselves. It's like we aren't paying attention enough right now, where we're having these discussions about AI, we're having these discussions about inertia and change, and the enrollment continues to decline right around us. And you go, wake up.
It's amazing to me. I told you I visited a lot of schools before I came to Brandeis. And some of them are having the conversations, some aren't having the conversations. They're creating committees, and in a few years, the committees will have reports. But this is one in which there's real urgency. And you're right, that's the alternative. Shrinking enrollments or making your university relevant to the real world. I met with all the community colleges in one state, and the topic was competency-based education. And one institution, the state, really embraced it and said, we're going there. Another one was on the way. Most of the others thought it might be a good idea. A few didn't. But what happened was, President said, I'm near the end of my tenure. Let my successor do it.
Yeah.
Or the faculty would hang me if I did this. Or the board would hang me. I really can't do this. This is just too scary. And that's why we move so slowly. And also, we move slowly for what other reason? When I visit campuses, one of the questions I'm asked regularly, I've been there 3 hours. What new program should we adopt? And I say, I've been here for 3 hours. How do I know? What you should be doing, talk to your potential students, talk to your potential employers, follow what's happening in society and what's going to be necessary. That's how you want to plan where you're going. We turn internally,
Mm-hmm.
and the answers aren't there.
That's very good, my friend. Brent, do you have any more questions for Arthur before we give him the final two?
I feel like we can do another hour or 2 or 3 hours with Arthur, just given his collective experience and just what he's driving through at Brandeis right now. But I think this has been really insightful, Arthur. I think a lot of folks will listen to this and be encouraged to actually take action on their respective institutions. Um,
One quick comment there.
yeah.
They don't have the choice of not taking action. Unless they're really, really, really rich.
So
That better move,
you
and
teed
those
up
who move soon will lose out to those who do.
you
Mhm.
teed up my question. You communicate with such urgency about the moment that we're in. Earlier, you shared that you believe that roughly 20% of institutions will not survive as we go through the next few years and all the changes around us. If an institution fails to react in the next 12 or 24 months, is there a certain timeline that you see change as necessary? And I know it's a loaded question because you can be a different type of institution with different financials and all that good stuff. But I'm just wondering your perspective. Do you believe the urgency is now for everyone in the industry to address to really adopt, I would say, that transformational mindset shift that's needed?
Absolutely. And the answer to the question I'd give is
Mhm.
the time to act is now. The 87th institution that adopts our program won't be distinctive. The
Mm,
curriculum will be up to date, but they won't be distinctive. If you want distinction and you want relevance, move. Move quickly.
mm.
Mm. It's good. Arthur, we ask same two questions to every president that we interview, really everyone that we interview. Number one's more of a take it how you'd like it, choose your own adventure. What else do you want to say about Brandeis University? Anything that we haven't gone over? Anything that's a burning thought that you wanted to share? But it's an open mic for you to take a couple of minutes and just opine about Brandeis.
And I've told you the things I want to tell you about Brandeis. It's just an exciting moment to be here. The shock to me was, I told you I've been a president twice before. I've never worked with a faculty that was willing to work as closely with a president. I've never worked with a faculty that was willing to move this fast. It was like I walked onto a campus and they got it. They got it. They understood and they were ready to respond. And they helped me build something better than I would have thought of alone.
Know what's interesting about that? And before I get to the final question, and I've interviewed so many presidents and some lately that are at their alma mater. And you wonder if that makes a bit of a difference because you don't have to go in. You're someone from the outside who has to learn about the university and its goals. And when you're an alumni, when you've gone there and you're an alumni and it's your alma mater, you know it, you've felt it, you've been there, and there's like a respect, an unspoken respect that happens on day one rather than waiting the 100 days to learn about a university. You think that made a difference that you knew Brandeis from the minute you walked on?
Yeah, that mattered a lot. Um, I was in love with Brandeis when I left. Um, my closest friends in the world are the people I met there. Still, they introduced me to my wife. So I have a family because of them. I found my vocation there. And you know what? I got a pretty good education too. So yeah, and what happened was when I came back, I fell in love with it again. I fell in love with the students. The faculty were terrific. One of my favorite things to do is drop in at the dining halls and just walk up to a table and say, "Can I join you? Let's talk about Brandeis." But my favorite thing ever, I walked up in one dormitory. I walked up to the second floor. I walked up to the third room in. I knocked on the door. This woman answered it. Standing outside is this old guy. And I said, "I'm the president of the college." And she looked, and I said, I used to live in this room. And she invited me in. And the only thing I can say about it is it smelled a lot better than when I lived there.
That's funny. I like that a lot. We talked about this a little bit, but if you want to just maybe give us a quick summary, a takeaway for other college presidents, other leaders, what do you see for the future of higher education?
If you're afraid of success, go ahead and tune out because this segment is not for you. Every year, Higher Ed talks about change, but Insights EDU 2026, that's not another conference. It's the catalyst. It's where fresh data drops, revealing real insights on how modern learners are thinking, searching, and deciding right now. And here's a spoiler for higher ed leaders. Most institutions aren't keeping up. 3 days on the beach, February 17th to the 19th, 2026, in Fort Lauderdale. Over 65 powerhouse speakers, 40 sessions, zero fluff. We're talking unfiltered strategy, AI integrations, and forward thinking built for the leaders who want to disrupt before they're disrupted. So here's the question. Are you ready to lead transformation or be overtaken by it? Reserve your spot now at insightsedu.com. Early bird pricing ends December 15th. The EdUp experience has delivered over 1,000 episodes with higher ed leaders from around the world. Now you can support the show for just $5.99 a month and lock in that rate for life when you join before December 31st, 2025. You'll enjoy ad-free early access to episodes. Go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com. Click support the show and secure your lifetime rate today.
We're at a time in which when I talk to faculties, and I talk to a lot of faculties around the country, what I tell them is there's been no time in modern history in which higher education had the greater capacity to invent its future. And I say, this is a daunting moment, but the opportunity is not going to come for several generations again. Take advantage of it. Enjoy it. Because you don't have much more of a choice than that.
Brent, what did you think of this conversation with Arthur Levine?
Yeah, I would say beyond refreshing to hear a president meet the moment, actually exceed the moment, and really your ability to see into the future, Arthur, is probably a hidden talent that is guiding Brandeis right now through this exciting transformation. So I'm leaving this energized. I'm leaving this also believing that the more Arthurs that we have impacting the industry, the better our industry, meaning higher education, will weather this evolution. But more importantly, come out of it stronger. Come out of it with new models, new innovations, and be more relevant than ever to a society that is questioning its value right now.
Yeah, and Arthur, what I love about your story, your true story, is that you come all the way back out of retirement for your alma mater to create the change that you've written and spoken about for many years, and do it in such a impactful way at a time when the industry is in need of seeing something different. So I a mad respect for you, as we say, my friend, and I appreciate your innovation. I talk a lot about it too, and it's actually the most surprising thing that we can't get more oomph, we can't get more urgency when all we're seeing is the signs that point to it. It's like a big red arrow, and you just walk right by it because you don't want to see it.
One, thank you both very, very much. Number two, you have no idea how much it means to have two people like you who have real and distinguished chops in higher education say that this was a good thing to do. I am so grateful.
Yeah, it's not only is it good to do, it's going to be replicated, but there's always only a first. There's only one first, and that's going to be Brandeis University, who has done this, and we love it. Ladies and gentlemen, he's your guest today. He is Dr. Arthur Levine. He's president at Brandeis University, and I wish I had my sound effects to give him the whole experience of all the things going off around him. But we're going to leave it there. You just EdUp'd.